Hey everybody, this is Andy with modernmilitaryhistory.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another podcast containing incredible history. The time has come for me to, quite frankly, open up a Patreon page because I need support. If you're not familiar with what Patreon is, it's a essentially peer-to-peer support system where you, the viewer, can give a monthly donation to me, the content creator, so that I can do things like afford a better camera, afford a better microphone, afford some soundproofing for my apartment, things like that. So if you're a fan of modern military history, the content that I've been bringing, consider just checking out this Patreon thing. You can go to patreon.com/modernmilitaryhistory and you can check out the 3 tiers of engagement where you can donate. There's like $1, $5, $10, and each one of those actually gets you something. So you're getting something for your money. It's not just a donation. It's access to hidden videos that the public doesn't get to see on my open channel. It's access to the ability to submit question and answer questions to me that I can answer on a quarterly basis in live Q&A sessions. It's just going to be me and you doing our absolute best to bring these veterans' stories, bring these book reviews, bring these podcasts to the audience continually for free into the future. Thank you very much. You take care. Enjoy the podcast.
But they already know you're there.
Right.
I mean, it's obvious they know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back, I told them, I said, drop a bomb on it.
Yeah, they're there. We know they're there. Like you mentioned earlier, the North Vietnamese guy just walking out of the forest and saying, go, turn around, go back. It's like, well, they're there. Time to put an arc light right there. But then again, with the intelligence leaks, they would have known an arc light was coming and they'd have to move their stuff and nothing happens fast with the bureaucracy. But that's my thing. It's like, well, they're there.
They might have looked at it like Saigon might have looked at it like, well, we don't know how many enemy troops around there. Let's, see if we can get a guy on the ground and find out how many enemy around there. Well, they found out. So that ended that mission. And so then we went ahead and we just came on back to Dak To and then back down to Khartoum.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was after that, I had a couple of other missions where, we were looking, we had road watch missions.
Mm-hmm.
You go down the road and you try to count the trucks go by.
Yeah.
And if you can, you try to see what's inside the trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a couple of those kind of missions.
Are you taking pictures of the trucks as well? Document that they're there.
It's kind of hard to get the pictures because they usually come down at night. All you got to do is see lights.
Sure. Okay, so it's nighttime. It's nighttime to avoid.
Yeah, this is before we had starlight cameras.
Of course, yeah.
And starlight scopes were huge back then. They were huge.
Yeah.
So now they're.
Of course, now they have the. It was a big thing for me when I saw the very first kind of images of the new quad tube. They have like the 4 tube night vision goggles that they have now. They're the current generation for special forces guys, the GP NVG-18s. And I remember those were so hot when those first showed up. Everybody every civilian with too much money wanted to get one so they could play like they were special forces. But I think they retail for like $60,000 to a civilian. So it's like, just you want to wear GPNVGs, go join the army. Or if you're really rich and you want to play, then go do that. But yeah, the amount of evolution, and the thing is about talking about this stuff is that what you folks were doing was such a proto for the special forces community and the special operations community that conducts warfighting now for the United States and has now defined the way the modern world conducts warfighting. It's a very, very important part of how modern nation states fight. And in a way, Vietnam was the crucible for figuring that out. So the fact that you guys were doing what you were doing without that kind of technology just goes to show. You said Bob Howard was full of guts, and I think that anybody who is doing this kind of stuff was full of guts. So I know it's difficult to say that about yourself, but I'll say it. I'll say it for you.
Yeah, I'm getting big guts now.
Oh boy.
Gotta lose it. Yeah, I used the night vision once. I back on the A team. I had a mission where
Mm-hmm.
right before we turned over, they wanted us to go in and capture somebody because the enemy was using the train that came through the area.
Hmm.
And so we were getting ready to go and do an ambush on the railroad tracks or someplace, you know. So we pulled back away and we were going to rest for a while. And it was starting to get dark. And I'm sitting there talking to this guy named Jim Roush. And he was a CCS. I don't know where Jim is anymore, but it was Don Bemis, Jim Rouse, and Sonny Hoffman. And we went out there and we stopped and I'm talking to Jim Roush and I'm going, hey, where are they putting them? Because they had set Claymore mines up. I said, where are they putting the mines? I go, oh, those are bad guys. And he goes, where? So I had the starlight scope and I could see them. And I looked up at the top. I could see the mountain and coming down because it was starting to get dark. Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I turned the scope off. I took out my magazine, put a magazine of tracers in, mm-hmm. and I go right there. And I pulled the trigger. All these tracers, magazine of tracers are going out, right? So what I did, not being a dummy, I went ahead. I marked my own location.
Yeah, you exposed your position.
So all of a sudden, all these bullets are flying at me. No. And so I got down the ground, and I'm going, damn, that was dumb. So all of a sudden a bullet hit something on the ground in front of me. It kicked it up, hit me right there in the eye, right here in the face. And I went down. I go, shit, I'm hit. so then Jim Roush comes over because the firefight was over in like 20 seconds. But, Jim Roush comes over with a red flashlight. And he goes, oh, you're going to be okay. I go, what is it? He goes, I don't know, but you're going to have a heck of a shiner. So it was a ricochet that hit me in the face.
Oh, my God. That's funny. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That whole story is incredible.
I got a black eye and a big scab on my nose. So when we finished that mission, we asked for a resupply. And they said, no, just come back in. So we went out to the road and they were going to send trucks to pick us up.
Yeah.
So we stopped on the way out, we stopped and went fishing. We stayed there overnight.
Yeah.
And then the next day we went fishing with grenades in the stream. Mm-hmm. And we loaded up this rucksack full of fish. And we go into this village and we saw they had a little place where they had some rice and food and some beer. And he says, we'll give you all these fish for some beer. And they said, okay. So we were sitting there drinking beer and eating whatever, waiting for the trucks to get there. And all of a sudden I see these two guys get up, the big Chinese guys, they get up and start walking out. And I told Jim, I go, you see what I see? And he goes, yeah, those are bad guys. And I go, yeah. I said, we figured those guys were, in that same group that we had the firefight the night before. But it was about maybe not even a week later, we ended up, those two guys that we saw were actually killed in an ambush.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got guys. I had to go out and take pictures. I went over and took pictures of them because we put their faces in a file cabinet, if you want it, for nothing better.
Sure.
So we know who it is, and they tried to identify them, but they were Chinese.
Really, pretty interesting. Really interesting. So I think it's time that we talk about the Bright Light mission, the big one. Where does that story start? Because I kind of asked, about the hairiest situation that you kind of got yourself into while you were with CCC, and that mission came up almost immediately. So where does that story start?
I was walking across the compound again.
Okay.
And first sergeant said, he goes, hey, Jim, he says, how would you like to hold down Bright Light up at Dock Toe? And I said, sure. So I got the team ready. We go up to Dock Toe, and sure enough, they had this mission come in where an F4 was coming down this river, and it was going to drop a bomb on the bridge. And what happened is he caught a 51 caliber, lost his hydraulics, and hit the first hill, went through the second hill, and landed on the third hill.
Oh, jeez.
And the pilots above said there was just a huge fireball, and the engines actually left the fuselage and went 800 meters.
Oh, jeez.
They landed on that third hill.
Mm-hmm.
So we went ahead and went in. I went on the first chopper, and as I'm flying over, I'm looking down at this Ho Chi Minh Trail, and I'm looking at this bridge, and I'm going, shit. We're going to get in trouble, because there's going to be guys all over this place.
What was it specifically that told you that? What was it specifically that gave you that inclination?
It was a bridge.
Okay, so it's a funnel. It's a funnel where this is where people have to be to move through this area.
Yeah, the enemy has a lot of people around the bridges.
Okay.
They keep a lot of people around in case somebody tries to go and blow it up.
Okay.
Johnny Plaster had a mission where he was trying to go in and blow up a bridge,
Yeah.
and he did. I think they got like 250 meters away, and that was as close as they could get.
Jeez.
So here we're going in right on top.
All
so,
right.
so I'm on this hill, and I can see where the bombs were short
Yeah.
or long. I mean, and so anyway, I get off the chopper, and I'm waiting for the next. When I'm coming down the ladder, it's all burned out, right, from that big fireball. So my head scars, I had bright red hair, so at that time, so my cravat fell over my eyes, and I couldn't see where I'm going. I'm climbing on the ladder. Bamboo whips around, hits me in the butt, and tears out my shorts. So now I got this white butt showing. And so I didn't wear underwear, because you get that crotch rot.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sitting there and waiting for the next chopper to come in. They come in, and next thing you know, we're waiting for our ears to clear up, and we start walking down this hill. I'm walking down, and I notice that it's all cleared out, and it's really kind of nice looking. And I start seeing bunkers.
Oh.
So I go up a little bit further, and I see 3 enemy off to my right. And one had a rifle on me. The other 2, I couldn't tell if they had. All I could see is like from here up.
Mm-hmm.
So I told my guys, I said, "Come song," in Vietnamese, even though the yards, because I wanted them to hear. And I just took my rifle and said, "Go," like that. And then they went on. And in retrospect, I should have taken them and found out where the pilots were.
Oh,
But
wow.
so I told them to go, and they left. And so as we went down a little bit further, I see this graveyard with a fence around it and a big communist star over the top of it. Then I see this building out of bamboo. It's like 20 by 20 feet on stilts.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole place is, except for where the jet went through, was all woven over.
Mm-hmm.
They actually wove bamboo over the top of it.
So
The whole village went up. We started going up a little bit further, started climbing the hill. I found an American boot, and there was a foot in it, but it turned out to be a indigenous foot. One of the enemy just took him off an American or something. They fit him. So we had that. Then when you get up towards the hill, I'm starting to find a lot of debris where the jet was like going pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to find a lot of debris. So I'm going up to the hill. I get up to the second hill, and it's wiped out, and I can see where there was patterns on the dirt where there was hooches that got wiped out. So I had Homer and a couple of guys go through one side, and I went through the other side. And what we came up with, pith helmets, an officer's belt, a bunch of Viet Minh medals, medicinal bottles, and bandages and stuff like that. So we brought that back, put it in the rucksacks. And at that time, right before that, actually, when I was coming up that hill, before I got to the top, all of a sudden, Cobra gunship, I could hear trucks on the road. I can hear the movement on the road. Wasn't quite sure what it was. But then all of a sudden, this Cobra gunship flies over, or an A-wing Sky Raider, I can't remember which. All of a sudden, they're firing miniguns. And they're firing miniguns right over my head. I mean, the debris is falling down on me.
All the brass, all the hot brass is getting fallen down and whatnot.
I can't, maybe, be honest, because at that time, I'm sitting there going, what the heck's going on?
Oh, okay.
So I got on the horn, and I just said, hey, what's going on up there? He goes, you got 6 truckloads of enemy, a bunch of troops running behind him, and 2 armored cars coming after you. And I'm going, well, this isn't going to be good.
Jeez, oh, Friday. Because this is a significant amount of infrastructure you've fallen on top of. I mean, were these fighting bunkers? Were these fighting positions, or were these like air raid bunkers?
Well, the bunkers were. Bunkers were, for taking cover. They were big bunkers, too. They were in the ground. They were like big holes with sandbags, not sandbags, but like brick around them, rock and stuff. And so, anyway, so we're when I got up on the top, all of a sudden I could hear the enemy yelling, and they're coming up, and our guys are trying to shoot them, trying to keep them down from getting up on that hill. I still couldn't make it to that next hill where I could see the jet laying over there. There was a bomb laying there on the ground. And at first I thought this was a Bantrong. That's where they regroup people and form new groups. That's what I thought it was at first. And I thought the bomb was something from the Ho Chi Minh Trail that they just went ahead and were going to dissect and make satchel charges out of it. So, but I guess the bomb turned out to be from the F-4.
Oh, wow. So it broke free when the F-4 was colliding with multiple hills.
Yeah.
So is this like
So
a staging area that you're in? Is it like a
no, when I went back in 17 with DPAA, it turned out to be that it was a hospital. It was a hospital
oh
for treating the people that get injured on the Ho Chi Minh Trail when
oh
they got on the trucks and stuff.
oh my goodness. Okay,
So
so that's what's going on. Okay.
yeah, so that's when I found out what it really was. So and the hills were really steep around it. Um, Even the hill where you come up from the bridge was really steep where I landed on top. And the second hill was really steep going over to the third hill.
Hmm.
And on the other side where the trucks were coming, that was really steep.
Hmm.
So and there was a park in there, and at first I thought it might have been a truck park, but it turned out to be probably a parade ground or something.
Hmm.
So and anyway, so as they're coming and the enemy, our guys are shooting, trying to keep them down. They finally said, hey, we got to get you out of there. And I said, oh, I'm not to the third hill yet.
Hmm.
And he goes, well, if we can't get you out now, we're going to have to pick you up tomorrow because
Hmm.
we're running out of fuel, running out of ammo, and there's a storm coming in. So there's no way I could leave my guys there. There's
Yeah.
no way we're going to get away because there's no telling how many enemy are coming up behind us. So anyway, and they're going to be pissed after hitting the hospital. So I went ahead and said, okay, come and get us out. So the first chopper came in, and he got Homer out and two of my yards out.
Hmm.
And they took off. They received some fire probably from, when they got out and they got over by those trucks, they probably received some fire there. But as I'm waiting for the chopper to come in and pick me up, I told them, I said, hey, I want gunships on both, chop Cobras on both sides of the chopper. I want you shooting like crazy into these trees, keep the enemy down. And just as they were getting there, probably maybe a few hundred feet away, all of a sudden the enemy started coming through the bushes at us.
Oh.
And so we're firing like crazy. One guy got an RPG off. It hit off to the right of me, and I got hit in the arm and then chest, and I still got some shrapnel on my wrist right here.
Really?
Right here. Got some shrapnel. And the other guys got peppered a little bit from the shrapnel from the RPG, but it was nothing serious. But anyway, we started firing at these guys, and we're running and trying to get on the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And as we got on the ladder, I'm all of a sudden I hear this boom like that, and I'm going, freaking chopper just got hit by an RPG, and I'm waiting for it to fall down on top of me. But these guys we're knocking them out like crazy. But finally, I get on the ladder, and we just started taking off. And what happened is the chopper hit a tree. He lost a couple of feet on both ends of his rotor.
Whoa!
And so he vibrated all out of there. He got us out, and we flew all the way back to Dak To, vibrating.
Oh my!
But we got back hanging on the ladders, trying to get back. And I climbed up. And we were flying away. I was climbing up the ladder to get in. I wanted to tell the pilot. I said, "Look down." And he says, "You see those squares on the ground?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I says those are they're hooches." And I says, so. And so anyway, that whole mission, we got back okay. Chopper was full of holes, and we had nothing serious on wounds.
Oh my God!
But we managed to get the team back out of there. But I couldn't make it to that third hill, and so that always bothered me. And so that was the only mission I ran that I failed on.
Did you guys know anything about if those pilots in the F4 had been able to eject, or if they were inside?
I know that last year when they went back, or a year before they went back, they found one of the pilots' dog tags. It was Eric Huberth and Alan Trent were the two pilots.
Do you think that they were in the aircraft and their bodies were there?
Oh, yeah, they were in the aircraft.
So at this point, you guys were going to try to recover those gentlemen,
bodies,
their families. Yeah.
Yeah, and they want us to go from the first hit all the way over. In retrospect, I'm saying, maybe I could have just stayed on the ground and just hid myself, and the next day maybe mosey over there when things cool down and see if I can find anything. But then the Vietnamese come across and they start, after the war, they come across and they start taking out all the metal on the plane. They start hauling it back to make trinkets out of. They could have gotten their helmets, their suits, anything.
Who knows where?
And sold them on the market. Who knows?
I have I've seen photos of what was Saigon is now, I think it's called Ho Chi Minh City,
right?
Where there's a market, there's an infamous market which sells Vietnam military stuff, and some of it's been created and some of it's real, some of it's as it was during the war. So it really, that story right there that what you just said really ties in with that. And also just kind of makes me think about the kind of macabre reality behind pursuing, artifacts where you don't quite know where they came from or how they got to where they were. So maybe that stuff was sent off as a tourist kind of sale, or make money from tourists kind of thing.
Yeah, they are. The big thing is they're making dog tags of people. Um, Phnom Penh has a big area too for all that kind of equipment. In fact, in Phnom Penh in Cambodia, you can even get Russian gear and stuff that from back then.
Well, as somebody who's just super fascinated in artifacts, I I've kind of grappled with this personally. It's just kind of like, well, what kind of bad juju is attached to these things, and what point,
Yeah,
what's respectful, what isn't respectful. And it's a tough kind of thing to grapple with if you start to think about it. I know a lot of people who just, they're very happy to get whatever they get, and they just don't think about it. They just don't think about that. And that's fine. But I'm just kind of hearing this story, and that's something that personally sits with me. But I'm very curious to bring this back to you, bring this back really quickly. You said that while you're waiting and before the RPG hit and you got hit with shrapnel, you saw the NVA pouring out of the trees.
yeah, they're coming through the trees.
What color is their uniforms? What do they look
Oh my
like?
gosh, I don't even think of that in a
You,
firefight. I'm
you,
just shooting.
there's just, we don't know. It's just, there's just people, and they're NVA. Wow.
Yeah,
That's just as interesting. That is really interesting.
I couldn't tell you what they were wearing. I really, for the life of me, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Some of them had helmets on, some
Uh-huh.
didn't. You know,
Cool.
uh, but going up when I went back in 2002, climbing up that hill, it took forever. For every foot up, you went 2 feet back. I mean, it was crazy. Uh, I guess that's every 3 feet up, you went 2 feet back. That's right. So,
So,
but
so,
it was really, really steep.
so you think even if you went, even if you stayed on the ground, and tried to go up there, it just wouldn't have gone well.
Yeah, going down the hill on the other side was so steep.
Hmm.
I might have been able to get down it, but I'm sure there was probably guys down there. I'm sure there was enemy going towards the jet too.
So you guys got
So
out, and it sounds like it was just a perfect storm. Aircraft are running out of fuel, they're running out of ammo, lots of enemy, determined enemy, and the terrain was just, and there's a storm coming. It was like, it was as though God
yeah,
himself was like, you can't do it today. But you went back,
it's one of those things.
which
So I
is
went back in
incredible.
yeah in 2002. I gave my buddy a bunch of money and he went over, and then I went over. I bought some cameras with me and stuff. I met with joint recovery teams back then,
Hmm.
before it became DPAA. And I met him in Phnom Penh and I talked with him, and they said, we just don't have enough information to go back in there.
Yeah.
And I said, well, heck. And then, so I talked to one of the other guys who was a special forces guy working with the joint recovery team. And he came up to me and he goes, look, if you want to go up there, just go. He goes, you're a special forces, just go. And I said, how? He goes, well, go up to Ban Lung and just work it out from there.
Hmm.
I said, thanks, appreciate that. So I went ahead and flew up to Ban Lung. My buddy and I flew up there. I had a guy with me that was, his name was Harlow Short. And he was our medic when I was on the A team. And he lived in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And he just happened to be in the States when he came down to my house, and we stayed with me for a while.
Yeah.
I gave him a bunch of money and sent him back over to get everything organized. And so he did. And we got together and we went up to, his son came with us too, because he spoke fluent Thai, which is very close to Laotian, I guess. I don't think it's Cambodia. I think it's Laotian. So we went up to Ban Lung. We flew up there, got off the plane. I went to this hotel and I was there for a while. And I talked to the guy in the hotel and I said, he asked me what I wanted to do. And I says, well, I got these cameras. I said, I want to go up and take pictures of wildlife.
Hmm.
I'd like to go up into the Raticankari province up there by the tri border and see what's there. He goes, oh, it's a very dangerous area up there. And I said, well, I'm not worried about that. So he introduced me to this guy who turned out to be the son of the province chief. So I went ahead, and he was a ranger. So I told him, I said, I'd like to take some guys with me. He goes, we need to take at least 6 guys. He says, we need weapons. He says, we've all got weapons. He said, would you like to have one? And I said, no, I don't want a weapon. I got too much weight now carrying with me. So we went ahead and we started off, and we took off, and we got maybe about 30, 40 miles. And I'm going, I'm not going to make it. I was just too out of shape to try and get up that far. So we went back again, and I started running and exercising and getting myself in better shape. Then about a week later, I said, 2 weeks later, I said, let's go. And he goes, okay. So we took off. We went part of the way by elephant. Then we got up to a place called Tavang. And from Tavang, we took boats up the river as far as we could. And then we got off, and then we started humping through the flatlands and stuff. Stayed at a couple of places. It was 100 miles. So we just kept going. Then we had got into the mountains and everything where the rocks were, and everything was really hard. So we walked up rivers and streams and stuff, and going over mountains and around mountains. But we finally got to the location. It took us 10 days to get there. And we ate off the land while we were going up there. And we found a bunch of tiger traps and all kinds of stuff that the Vietnamese were setting, because there's hardly any wildlife at all. Didn't see any monkeys at all. The only monkey I saw in the whole 2 months or 2.5 months I was there was in a village.
And that's poaching?
Yeah, they're poaching them and killing them and eating them, and who knows what they're doing with them, stuffing them and selling them, who knows. But anyway, what they do is they go in and they burn an area out, and then they wait for that fresh grass to come up. And when the fresh grass comes up, they go and kill them and take the animals. So, but we went ahead and we got all the way up to the bridge, and where the enemy came through on those trucks when they were down at the bottom, we set up a camp there. And so for 3 days, we went up in the hills and walked all around and checked everything. And it was crazy. I mean, it was interesting going back to the same spot. I walked up the hill to the first landing spot, then walked on down. Everything was different because it's been like 30 something years. So it's at that time. So everything was grown over. Yeah. And everything was like under the ground about 5 inches from all the, the soil, new soil being built up on top of it. Yeah. And so we went up there. I brought back, I got to the jet, got a couple of pieces, what was left, and brought that back. And on the third day, we got held up by bandits while we were up there.
Whoa, okay. What was that like?
It was interesting. I mean,
it was interesting.
We had our weapons. They came out with all their weapons were sitting up against trees and stuff.
What kind of weapons are we talking here? AKs?
Chinese we had AKs and 45s, and some. I think a couple of guys had SKSs. Some guys had some other submachine guns. Right. But the guys that came out of the bushes all had AKs and stuff like that, and they started screaming at me. I mean, I go, I don't, you can scream all you want. I don't know what you're saying, So, but they're screaming at us and pointing this gun hit me in the chest with the gun and all this other kind of stuff. And I mean, it didn't, I mean, you're sitting there going, well, I could die any second now. But what happened is the province chief's son started screaming back at him, and telling him, he goes, you don't want to do this, So finally, they just started screaming and yelling, and they just left us there. He said, we don't want you here tomorrow. And we were leaving the next day anyway. So, but he didn't want to deal with it because of the province chief, his son, because the province chief would have the whole world in there looking for the guy that killed his son.
What's their objective here? What's these bandits' objective?
I think probably poaching, and there is some mining going up in those general areas, but most of it's in Laos, and we're right by the tri border. So most of it's in Laos, and you don't want to go up in those areas where they're doing the minings.
What kind of stuff are they mining? What kind of stuff are they mining?
What the heck's the name of that rock? I'm trying to think of the zircon.
What's it for?
There's a lot of zircon mines up there. And I don't know what other minerals they're looking for.
Zircon? What do you use zircon for?
I have no idea. It's a gem.
I'm very curious.
It's a gem. I know when you get it out of the ground, it looks like root beer, natural. Huh. Looks like root beer colored.
Weird.
And when they heat it up, it clears up and turns to like a blue.
Hmm.
almost like I don't know. It's a light blue. It turns into like a light blue, and
Dangerous
they're beautiful.
area. This is a dangerous
Yeah,
area. It's a lawless kind of dangerous area that
yeah,
you're
it is
that
very lawless.
now you're
And then you got
going.
all these
I, I
poachers too.
I have to bring this up because I have to contextualize this for somebody like me. You are going back. You have ridden elephants, among other things, 100 miles through high danger. This area is like, I mean, you just proved it. It is, not only is it naturally dangerous, but this is a dangerous zone. People don't want you there. This is not trivial. What you are doing is like the least trivial thing I've heard in a while. Let alone being in MACV-SOG and doing that stuff. But I mean, then you're in the Army, and it's like, okay, we're in the Army, we have helicopters, we're doing this, you have this support infrastructure. Here, you are the support infrastructure. It's your money, it's your time. So I'm looking at it. So, Jim, I'm looking at it this way. This task is incredibly demanding, it's incredibly non-trivial. There has to be a significant motive behind it to do this. And this is, 40 years after Nam. So
Right.
what's going on for you during that 30 years in between your experience that you told us about not getting to that jet and the experience of going back that motivated you to do this? What was that like?
Well, it's just bringing the bodies back for the family.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
I want to just say that Bright Light, on my podcast, I did an episode called Bright Light. And it was where I read a book and I went through and I talked about the heroic things people such as yourself did to try to not only recover prisoners of war, but recover their bodies. Vietnam, for this country, is a hot topic. And I think people need to understand that what men such as yourself did is a shining bright light. Not only was it a code name, I want to bring that into the modernity. It was a shining bright light on this nation and on our history. You spent tens of thousands of dollars of your own money to do this.
Yeah, but
I needed to take time to bring that up.
well, it to me it wasn't the money. I mean, that was only a month's pay,
Yeah.
but the main thing is that you don't leave anybody behind, and these are guys that were there for us.
Yeah.
If we were left back there, we'd want somebody to come and get us. Like DPAA right now is they're trying to get in North Korea to get the bodies back from there. And so I mean, you just don't want to leave anybody behind.
Yeah. What'd you find when you finally got there?
Well, all I found was just the parts of the jet, and I brought them back and gave them to the family. And I'm still trying to get a hold of the other family so I can give them a piece of the jet if they'd want it. Some families don't want it. They'd rather just let it go and not bring it to the surface anymore.
Yeah.
But it's important. I think it's really important that you at least try. And DPA went in a couple of times and they got shot out twice before I went in. Yeah, before I went in. They got shot out twice. They made it on their third attempt. And they went for like 100 meters around the jet. And they found pens and stuff, but they were only on the ground for like 10 hours, so they didn't get a chance to find a lot. So I went back again. We came back 10 days back out of there again. I threw a big party for the guys and thanked them. And when I left, so DPA, I gave all my photos and all my stuff I had to DPAA. I met them up in the Joint Recovery Team. I met them up in Adipu, Laos. when I was going up there, going up north on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And talking with those guys, the guy asked me, he goes, "How did you get there?" I said, "I walked." And he goes, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I walked."
Yeah,
And
through the
he goes,
valley of
"What are you,
shadow.
crazy?" I said, "The good thing that came out of it is I lost 35 pounds." So,
Get me on one of those.
yeah.
Get me
So
on
I
one
went
of
ahead. So, yeah, that's what I got. I told him I'm going to go back so I can lose another 35 pounds.
those.
Um, so I went ahead and gave all that stuff to DPAA. And in 2017, DPA called me up and said, "How would you like to go back to Cambodia?" And I said, "Of course I do." So what they did is they gave me a ticket and sent me to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked with the guys over there. They went through classes, how to use the radios, and did some knot tying and so. I was a mountain climber and ice climber and all that stuff already. But they put you through this climbing thing because the hills are so steep. You got to be on ropes when you're digging and everything. Um, so we went back again. I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and they asked if I would stay longer, so I stayed there for the whole 6 weeks because I worked with them. I didn't just sit on the sidelines drinking a beer.
Yeah.
I went out and I dug with them and
Wow.
went through the screens with them. I did everything with them,
Wow.
and it was
Archaeology.
great.
It's like hardcore archaeology they're doing.
Well, that was my degree, was archaeology. It was
Really?
anthropology with a minor in archaeology. Yeah, before I went to school to be a doc. But when I was sitting in the classroom, I'm sitting there going, "There's 60 guys. There are 59 other people in this room with me. There's only one teacher. What am I going to do with this? I've been spending my life writing for grants to get money to go do a dig or something."
Yeah.
So I switched to pre-med.
Wow. So
And
you guys are doing archaeology of the crash site on the third hill
yeah,
because
what they do is
yeah.
they line it all out with ropes and everything,
Yeah.
and then they put tarps down at the bottom with like a wall. So when you're digging, if anything falls, like rolls down the hill, they catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just start doing that, and then they just start putting in buckets, and they've got like 6 of these big screening things that with quarter-inch screen on it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you just take all that dirt and throw it in there and just keep running it through and breaking it up until everything falls through, and you're looking for pieces of bone, a tooth or a bone or anything. I found some bullets from the one of their vests, the 38 that they have in their vest. Found a bunch of wires. We found found part of their vests.
Well, that tells a story right there.
Yeah, so we figured that at least one person might have died right there at the crash, and if the other one lived, he might have died later.
Wow.
But that hit so hard. I don't see how anybody could live through it. That sudden stop would just tear your heart right out of the pericardial cavity, and cut the aorta. You just bleed to death real quick. Plus back injuries.
Oh, sure. Well, somebody had to take those bullets. I'm just listening to this, and I'm thinking, well, the bullets weren't in the 38. So that means the bullets were taken out of the 38, which means somebody was manipulating.
Well, they have them in their vest.
Yeah. Like spare rounds?
Yeah, they have a couple of, like, maybe 6 rounds.
Okay.
And then they got
some spare rounds.
Yeah, they're revolvers. They're little 38 revolvers.
Yeah. Okay, and then parts of their vest. So, and the vest was on the guy, so the guy was probably at some point taken out of the wreckage and gone through. And
yeah, and then you got tigers and stuff up there too. So
it's incredible. I'm sitting here in an apartment here in Oregon, and I'm thinking about this kind of place where there are bandits and tigers and all kinds of stuff, mining and just elephants, and I just can't believe it that you're doing it. You're doing it. You're braving all this to get those to get this story, and then it's like you couldn't. It sounds like you couldn't find them, or despite your guys' best efforts, their bodies weren't there, or we haven't confirmed that yet, maybe. But the fact that you then are still trying to provide the families something to give them
closure.
Yeah. So that they can have some meaning and maybe they can heal.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And I'm still friends with the family and stuff. So
Yeah.
we're friends on Facebook. We contact each other,
Yeah.
try to find out if there's any more info. We've got friends over there that are helping us. There's a place called Stony Beach. They're the guys that go out when somebody says that we found an aircraft or we found this piece of metal, and then he goes and looks at it and tries to correlate it with the government, find out where
Wow.
what happened here. He does that kind of stuff, and he's the one that went down and talked to the Vietnamese and asked them, what was up there
Mm-hmm.
and what went on, and they told him that it was a hospital, and they said they found 127 remains so far, and they're still looking for over 100 remains from the battle, just from that firefight, that battle. So that's a lot of people.
Well, you can't bring a
And yeah,
metal
it's great.
detector in there. It's not as simple as bringing a metal detector in there because there's flechettes, there's bullets everywhere, there's
Everything. Oh
shrapnel.
yeah, did bring a metal detector, but it was just ridiculous.
Oh my God.
I just gave it to the ranger when I
Mm.
left, so I would have to haul it back. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you just try to get it all put together and trying to find out what really happened. I know the family found somebody wrote him a letter from Adipu in Laos and said that they think that their brother died in a prison, but we still don't know for sure.
Hmm.
What I'd like to do is find out where that prison was and where they buried people, and that would be really. When I was over there, I asked every village I could come across, and some of the people were younger back then.
Yeah.
They were kids, and they don't remember anything. But a lot of the people also moved away from the area too after when the war was over.
I
But you had that Khmer Rouge thing going on.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That region has been unstable to say the least. And
It's such a shame.
I
Beautiful.
I really personally want to, in 2018 I worked in a kitchen after I graduated with my history degree. And I worked in a kitchen and I saved up like just enough money to go to Europe. And I went to Europe because I really wanted to see the places I'd been reading about in military history all my life. And I really wanted to like think about it as deeply as you can because it's like one of the reasons I like artifacts and why I like talking to people such as yourself because that makes that history so much more real than reading it in a book. And I've been sitting with Vietnam now trying to learn everything I can about it. And I really, really, really want to go. And I really want to go to some of these regions like you're talking about. But it's like, God, it's not trivial. It's not trivial. You can't just show up. Hey, I'm a tourist. It's like, no, you're
Yeah.
mine now. It's not trivial. So it is a shame that these areas are so hard to access because it's such a teaching. People can learn so much and connect and ascribe meaning with the pain by being able to go and understand and see. So, um, you know,
But
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, if you go to Cambodia, if you go to the killing fields and stuff over there, I
Yeah,
mean, I walked around it and they pretty much dug up all the graves as much as they could, the mass burial sites.
yeah,
But even when you walk around, I walked around, I found humerus,
yeah.
I found a scapula. You walk around, you find the bones laying on the ground. They've got 3 towers that are filled with skulls.
Mm,
Um, they've got a whole map of Cambodia made out of skulls. I mean, it's horrible what happened. Some of the things that happened were, but the interesting thing is a lot of the Cambodian people forgave the Khmer Rouge. They forgave them and moved on. And one of the guys that's working in, I can't think of the Tavang. I can't think of the name of the building.
yeah,
Something 10 or something. But that's where they did a lot of their tortures and stuff. And when you walk in there, the mattresses are still full of blood. There's still the blood on the floor. They just left it.
yeah.
And the guy giving the tour was one of the guys that actually did all the tortures. Because you can imagine, but they actually forgave him. But it's been so many years now since the Khmer Rouge that the young kids growing up don't remember it. They don't know
Yeah,
anything about it. And now they're starting to get back into crime again.
yeah,
One of the big things is they get into car accidents with tourists, and then they try to sue the tourists for a whole bunch of money and that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff going on over there, which is really kind of sad. Laos is a communist country, but it's a beautiful country, and you can get around over there real easy. And they got a great transportation.
Really,
the roads are beautiful. They're well taken care of. The restaurants, a lot of people live there that are in, like, I met one guy in Vientiane that in Laos. He spoke 7 languages, and him and I hung out together. And we'd go to like French pastries for breakfast by, or like a Swedish pastry place.
Oh, wow.
And the Swedes were in there doing all these pastries and stuff. And it was great. Then we'd go to another place that had great breakfast, go to another place for desserts. We'd go out for dinner, and there'd like be Germans and all these other people from all over the world that run these restaurants. And it was really, really
I'm going. I'm going.
Then I met a Buddhist monk who was he trained in Australia.
Wow.
And there's nothing funnier than hang out with a Buddhist monk with an Australian accent speaking. But he was our tour guide, and we used him because they were having some kind of a celebration going on, and they throw these water balloons at you filled with dye in them.
Oh, really?
And do it to all these people, and they wait for the buses, because the buses don't have windows or anything, and they're waiting for them to go by, and they're throwing them at him. So this Buddhist monk just stuck his sleeve out the window, and all these people sitting there going like this, They didn't throw any balloons, so we were saved.
It makes me think of some stories I've heard. It makes me think of some stories I heard about. Dick Thompson told me that he got transported from the airport where he landed initially in Vietnam to connect up with CNC. Just bus pulled up and had mesh wire over the windows because it wasn't water balloons they were trying to throw in the bus. It was explosives and grenades and things. So, but maybe he just needed really a Buddhist monk with him to. But anyways, kind of thinking about your service in Nam, thinking about your service with MACV-SOG. I think it might be safe to say that. Well, first let's title it. What was the name of the aircraft that you went to go find?
It was an F-4.
And or what was like the desert? It was like a call sign or something you called it by.
It was Cobra 83, Cobra 84.
Cobra 84.
Right.
I would say I'm going to argue this, and here we are on the Modern Military History podcast. Not the Modern Military podcast, the Modern Military History podcast. Let's keep that distinction live. Here we are, and I just want to argue here right now live that the Cobra 84 Bright Light mission is probably the longest SOG mission. It went decades and involved multiple insertions and multiple approaches and multiple firefights. So I want to say that, you said something earlier where you said, I was there. I only went on, 6-7 missions. It wasn't that many. I just want to say, well, you took part. You've been championing the Cobra 84 mission, which I would say is the longest running SOG mission of SOG history. So don't discount yourself. That's incredible. And is it still ongoing? Are they still working on that site? What can you talk about?
They're still going. They're going to go back over again, but this year they wanted to go to North Korea and see if they can get. I think it's one of the ships the U.S. ships that was captured over there.
Yeah, they haven't impounded.
Yeah, and they're going to get those bodies. That was something we can thank Trumpy for, because when he was over there, he got those bodies back, and he got this set up to bring these guys back.
Copy that.
So I don't know if they actually went or not. I need to give them a call, because they usually leave this time of the year in April.
Well,
because of the monsoon seasons and stuff. I gotta
find a way to finagle my way on a DPAA mission and carry water or scrub out the toilets or something, because being a part of that would be an honor.
A lot of people ask me if they would like to go, and there's just no way.
100 miles.
They put me back in the military to go.
Yeah, geez.
You're flying on military aircraft and you're with the guys and everything.
I'll scrub out their toilets or something. Something horrible, because just taking part of that is just such an honor. Kind of thinking back now, after Cobra 84, what did your time in SOG look like?
After that mission, since it was a pretty rough mission and then stuff, and um, I don't think I ran another mission. I don't know if I can't remember if I ran another. The Cobra 84, I didn't even know it was in Cambodia when I ran the mission.
Yeah.
I thought it was in Laos all these years.
Wow.
Then
So
I talked to,
they didn't tell you
yeah,
where you're going.
no, because the missions that you got to go right now. Or they just say there's a guy down, you got to go get this guy,
Yeah.
and you just take off. You got your everything set up. You just grab it, jump in the choppers, and go. Half time you get a briefing on the way out. So it's those kind of things. But after that is when I went down to Long Ton and started teaching team leaders, and that's when I met John Caviani. I was one of his instructors. And then he got captured after his second mission after he went back. But yeah, he got captured, spent 2.5 years in prison, and he received the Medal of Honor when he came back.
Oh, really?
But yeah, he left everything open so that the other guys can get out. He stayed there overnight, and then they got overrun. John Jones was with him. He got killed. And interesting is that John Caviani passed away from some blood dyscrasia, a malignancy in his blood, and killed him. But they're both buried in Arlington, just like 10 feet away from each other, which is kind of an interesting thing.
Wow.
But John Caviani was really a super nice guy. Johnny was one of my favorite friends. But when Johnny and I were out in the bush in Vietnam running a mission, the enemy tried to triangulate us, and we kept them on the line and everything. And so the next day they wanted to get us out of there. So they pulled us out. There was 5 of us on the ground. There was only 4 ropes. So John and I came out on one rope. He hooked up here and I hooked up over here,
Oh, really?
And, yeah. So and we're below everybody else because of the stretch of the rope, we're heavier. And so we're coming out and John's shooting down, like where the bad guys are. And we're spinning in circles. And I'm yelling at him, shoot the other way.
It's like a Catherine wheel.
Yeah. So anyway, I finally got because mine was on my sling and it's hanging out like this because my legs and arms are hanging out here, being spun around so fast.
Oh my God.
So I finally got my gun. I started shooting the other way and tried to slow it down.
Oh boy, that is these stories are just you can't help but laugh. It's like,
they're fun times, There's a lot of bad times, but you have a lot of good times too. It's just it's part of the adventure.
Yeah, I think it's inherent. I mean, I think it's just kind of like, the highs and lows of it. I think I've heard that special operations I've heard it equated to a speeding train. It's hard to get on, and then it's hard to get off.
And that's why so many people stayed.
Yeah. But in 71, if I did my research correctly, you processed out of the Army. Tell me about that decision.
Well, they wanted me to be an officer. They approached me 3 times to be an officer. Like all the guys that I mentioned before, they're all officers when they retired. Johnny was a command sergeant major, but Johnny Plaster was a major. Yeah. Bob Howard was a colonel. They were all enlisted guys when we were together. But I told them I wanted to get out and go to school because remember I ran away from home and I didn't even have a high school diploma. I had a GED, but I did get a high school diploma. I got it from San Diego High School because back then you couldn't get a GED. You had to have a high school diploma to get into Special Forces. So I wanted to get out and go back to school. And in 71, but I missed my flight 3 times coming home.
Why was that?
When I went out one time to take, we took, I think 3 prisoners, or I think it was 3 prisoners. We took them 3 or 5, I can't remember. But they were, when I heard they were going to run out and do a prisoner snatch, I was supposed to be going home. And I'm walking early in the morning, I got my pack all loaded up and I'm walking out and Verrill R. Glenn, now that's a great guy right there. Verrill R. Glenn made every possible combat jump there was.
Really?
In the Second World War and Korean War.
There
was 2 jumps going on at the same time, but he couldn't make both of them. He only made one of them.
What was this?
He had like 7. Viral, L-E or something.
Okay.
Glenn, Glenn.
Okay.
And I think he was a master sergeant or um,
Yeah.
sergeant major or something.
Cool.
Uh, in skydiving, his license number is D8, number 8. And he made I made 19 jumps in Vietnam. They're all training jumps, and stick kickers and wind dummy jumps kind of thing. And I made 3 halo jumps at Longtan, and Glenn jumped with me on 1 or 2 of my jumps, and I think Billy Waugh made 1 jump with me.
Wow.
But they were just watching me as I was free falling and what I was doing wrong and stuff like that.
That's cool.
So they're just making sure because we'd go out at high altitude, and then we'd come down, open up at 1,000 feet. But we had automatic openers. I had one that failed; it didn't open.
Whoa.
And so when I started getting ground rush, I just reached in, opened that puppy up, and hit me in the face. I got a split lip.
Oh.
So, but it went open on the ground, and when I got on the ground, I hear this, tick 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 slap. where it decided to open up when I was on the ground.
Oh jeez! Oh my god! That's nice. That's incredible. Wow. So you stayed while you it sounds like after you were running recon, you were instructing and you're doing Halo stuff, and you're doing kind of you kept doing cool stuff, but you weren't running recon anymore. What stopped you from? When was the hard stop for you from working recon?
Oh well, when I went down to start teaching.
Yeah.
And then when I was supposed to going home, I can't remember why I missed my first flight, but the second time I missed it, I think I missed my flight twice. I think the third time is when they marched me down. But I think it was the second time was when I was going on that prisoner snatch, POW snatch. It was our team Mamba out of CCN.
Oh.
Where Tilt was. They were down there for the POW for the snatch mission training, and so when they were going out, I packed up my back and I'm walking out there. Glenn comes walking out. He goes, "Jones, where are you going?" I says, "I'm going on this mission, Top." And he goes, "Aren't you supposed to be going home?" Going home? Damn, Top. If I'm supposed to be going home, man, please let me know. I don't think so. I haven't heard anything. He goes, "If I find out you're supposed to be going home." So I says, "Well, let me know, Top." And so I went out on a mission. Jeez. And so we took these prisoners. We come back in, and these guys come over to me. He goes, "First Sergeant wants to talk to you."
Oh, shit.
So I go on over, and there's these 2 guys marching me over. Oh, no. And he goes, "You missed your flight." I go, "I did?"
Are you still in your combat stuff?
Yeah, I'm still dirty and everything. He goes, "These guys are going to march you over. You get cleaned up. You get your uniform on, and they're going to take you down and put you on the plane." So they took me on down. They marched me right on down to Consonant there, and just marched me right onto the plane.
Oh God, that's cool.
So I came back home.
I can't believe it.
When I came home, I went back to school, and then I joined the reserves, and I was a police officer too at the time. That's when I was in San Jose PD. Okay. And so I went ahead and was going to school. I was going like part-time. So then I joined the reserves, and it was an underwater operations, A314 out of the 12th Special Forces Group, which was a reserve group. Mm-hmm. So they sent the whole team down to Key West and other areas to actually do our training. Mm-hmm. So we did all the training, got it. So we were underwater operations, did that for a while. And then I was teaching pararescue guys in the Air Force, which I didn't even know what pararescue was.
Like, what year is this? What year is this?
This was in 78.
Okay.
84, yeah, 78.
Okay.
So I was in Special Forces. I was in the Navy from 64 to 68, and I was in the Army from 68 to 78, Air Force from 78 to 84. So so I'm teaching them. They're telling me all this cool stuff they're doing. So on my day off, I just went on down. I just went on over to the 129th Aerospace Rescue Recovery Service, and they were stationed out of Moffett Field, which is a Navy base. And so I went over there, and actually, the time they were at Hayward at that time. So I went over and talked to them, and their guy in charge, Al Richmond, shows me this letter saying that pararescue guys need more combat training.
Hmm.
And so I'm going, I'm so tired of this. So he goes, well, that's your ticket in. I go, okay. So what they did is they sent me straight to Kirkland. I didn't have to go to Lackland, which was like Superman U. That's where they build you up, make you strong.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to go there because I was already scuba and jump and halo and all that, so I was qualified. So they sent me to Kirkland, and when I was there, they hated me there, because I did an inter-service transfer, and I remember one time they put me in charge of the group, and we had to run everywhere.
Yeah.
And I used to run at night. I ran 17 miles one night, and in the snow.
Oh my god.
And my big toenail came off my.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it didn't hurt. I mean, it just came up. It was like a blood blister, and it just lifted right off.
Oh Jesus.
So I had to run with tennis shoes on, and I had to cut the toes out of the tennis shoes. And so they hated me for that, but they knew I was doing good. I was a good runner and stuff. So I did all that, and then one time it was so cold, four guys didn't have their jackets, and for winter, for the dress blues, or I guess undressed blues, like you call it. But anyway, so I told him, I said, what have you got to wear? And he goes, all we got is our flight jackets. And I'm going, oh no. I said, go get your flight jackets. So I separated the group. I had the main group here, and I had a space, and I had these four guys back here. And so these four guys are wearing their jacket, and we're running across the base, going over to the school. And when we get up there, you have to be inspected. A cadre comes up to him, and he goes, what are you doing wearing your flight jacket? Oh, Sergeant Jones said it was okay, sir. And I'm going,
shit.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you're supposed to say that.
Just threw you under the bus.
Yeah, he was just too young. Yeah, he's just too young. So he goes, oh, he did he?
No boy.
So they came walking over to me. They dismissed class to go in and learn. They were doing all their medical stuff at that time.
Yeah.
So they come over to me, and he goes, we want to talk to you in the office.
Oh, shit.
I go in the office, and I go, drop 1,500 push-ups.
Oh, no.
It took me a day and a half to do those 1,500 push-ups.
But you did them, though, right?
I did them. And then they asked me at the end, he goes, you going to pull that stunt again? I said, Sergeant, under the same circumstances, yes, I will.
Oh, no.
And this one guy just goes, get out of here.
Oh, no.
So then I go back in there, and I told the guys, I said, why couldn't you just say, oh, was I not supposed to do that, Sergeant? I didn't. I didn't know. But no, they had to throw me under the bus.
Yeah, shit. Oh, man. That is hardcore.
Because PJs are really a small group. Yeah. We're all still good friends. Even the guys that dropped me, we're still good friends.
I have a buddy, and he'll remain nameless on the for the live podcast, but he knows who he is. Went to school with him, and he right now is I think he's in a pre-training program because he really wants to be a PJ. So he's working with some trainers, and he's trying his absolute best to get ready. And he was telling me exactly how he's doing it, but he's aiming for that. And he's working really hard, and he'll send me stuff, and I'm a pretty candy individual when it comes to working out, and I gave myself a pretty bad left knee injury from running improperly that I'm still trying to overcome. The idea of you having a toenail come out of your foot while you're doing this and keeps running is just like, oh man.
Oh, it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt
that. Yeah. See, that's what separates you from me.
It's just like, oh, look at my toenails. That's kind of weird.
So I'm gonna have to tell my buddy to listen. He will, because he just loves military history and he loves SOG guys, but he wants to be a PJ. And I know, just so go ahead and explain, though, for the audience, just exactly what a PJ is, what they do, and what part they play in our modern special operations community.
Actually, pararescue guys are, like if you remember when Lynch, what was it, Jessica Lynch? Mm-hmm. Remember when they went in, the SEALs went in and got her?
Wasn't she in Somalia or?
Yeah, someplace. I can't remember all of it.
Yeah.
But when you see the medics that are working on her, when they first meet her, those were PJs.
Yeah.
So the PJs, they work with SEAL teams. They work with Delta and some of the other forces. Um, they work with a lot of the guys,
Yeah.
but what they are, like, it used to be aerospace rescue recovery. Now it's just rescue,
Mm-hmm.
like the 30th Rescue Squadron or something like that. Um, but they were originally designed to go after the astronauts.
Oh,
That's
really?
where it came to the Aerospace Rescue Recovery Service.
Oh.
So they were designed to go into the Apollos and stuff like that. And when they were all when the capsules and stuff were coming down too far away, the Coast Guard couldn't get to them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they did have some ships that had the choppers on it, and they would go out and get them, bring them back on the ship. They did that quite a bit, but they did have the PJs going in after them. Usually, they did a lot of civilian stuff too. I made 2 parachute jumps out in the middle of the ocean to rescue guys on boats and to ships and stuff. Um, but that's mainly what their job is. They're highly trained. They're not as highly trained paramedics as like Special Forces medic is,
Okay.
but they aren't out there to deliver babies and to do all this other
Sure.
stuff. But they're out there to get you back in and safe as soon as possible to get you into a hospital.
Yeah.
So they're trained in that, and they're trained to get to you in any way possible.
I see.
If it has to be halo or jumping in or whatever it may be. They work with ships out in the ocean, plane crashes in the mountains, and any other disasters, like when they had the earthquake problems in California. They were there on the Bay Bridge when it collapsed. They were there to help get everybody out and get them out and treat them as fast as they could and get them to hospitals.
Yeah.
But you got to be in tremendous shape.
Yeah.
I mean, when I made one of my jump missions, I jumped into 35-foot seas.
Wow.
And the waves were like this.
Jeez.
When I finally got in the water, I had to wait for a peak so I could see where the dinghy was,
Mm-hmm.
and hoping that the dinghy would be visible. Because it could be
yeah, right.
so you might not even take a while to find it. And so then you cut your canopy away, but you got to swim with this medical gear and
Jeez.
all this tanks and everything else on you. So you got to swim. You might have to swim a couple of 100 yards to get to it. So
wow.
then when I got to the boat, the boat went up like this, and I could see all the way underneath the boat because that's how rough the water was. And then when the boat went back down again, it just went like this and just went like this down there. I just fell right into it.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
How long were you doing this kind of stuff?
For I think it was 6-7 years.
Whoa.
I got busted up parachuting, and they took me off jump status and asked me if I wanted to have a desk job, and I said, of course not. Do I look like a desk jockey? I said, look at my back. You think I'm going to sit at a desk looking out the window, all my buddies going out to jump and scuba dive and mountain climb and all this other stuff? Yeah. I said, no.
What
so
happened,
they gave me a medical.
What happened with your parachute jump? If I may ask, what happened with your jump?
When I was in Vietnam, I got thrown 25 feet out of a helicopter.
Okay.
And it broke my back in a couple of places and sprung my pelvis on the SI joint. And I wasn't aware of it.
Really?
Yeah, about 2 weeks. I couldn't talk for a long time because every time I talked, it was like that.
Oh my God.
So after about, I guess about a month or so, I was back out running missions again. And it hurt. Everything still hurt, but I was doing okay. So then when I had this jump, I got injured on an earlier jump, and I just kind of blew it off. And then on this one, I got injured again, and it was I jumped in the high altitude, up in the mountains, and it was in the wintertime, and there's frozen ground. And when you're at high altitude, the air's a little thinner. So when I hit the ground, I hit really hard, and it just knocked the dog poo out of me. So I stayed there. I stayed in a hot tub for a while. We were up close to some hot springs. So I did that. It was hot springs, not a hot tub.
Sure.
But so then when I went back, I noticed I was having a hard time running, because I used to run 5 miles every morning. And so the guy said, either go to the doctor or we're going to carry you there. So I went to the doc's office, and he goes, what'd you do? And I told him, and he goes, did you ever hurt yourself? You took x-rays. He goes, you ever hurt yourself before? I go, no. And he goes, I asked him, I says, why? He goes, well, you've got some old fractures here.
Jesus.
That's when I found out I broke my back. I broke T7, L5, and I sprung my pelvis. I had a big spur on my SI joint.
You're telling me that in Nam, on top of everything else I'm hearing, you broke your back And then like 2 weeks later, you're like, all right, I'm still gonna run recon. I'm still out. I'm still out here.
Yeah, it's about a month later because I was still a
Oh
hurting puppy.
shit.
So, but yeah, I thought I just hurt myself. I didn't think I broke anything.
Oh, wild.
So
Jesus.
because I was jogging and everything else after that, in Pararescue, I had to jog, I had to run and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I was still doing my 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 200 jumping jacks every day.
So
Yeah, I did that every morning when I got up.
There's a lot of I'm just kind of, tell me if I'm reading too much into this. There's a lot of precedent I'm seeing here, not only from you physically being injured in the ways that you were, but also being medically trained as part of your PJ service. That for me, I mean, it just makes perfect sense that you became a medical doctor after your time in the military was up. But you said that you had kind of initially thought about archaeology. What was going on there? Like for me, of course, with 2020 hindsight, it's like, well, of course you became a medical doctor with everything that went down. But I'm kind of curious.
Well, first of all, I didn't go to school to become a medical doctor. What I did is I didn't want to give people drugs for everything.
Yeah.
I went to school to become a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And so when I finished chiropractic college, I did a 3-year residency, but I did my residency in hospitals with medical doctors.
Wow.
So, yeah. And back on the East Coast, it's well accepted for chiropractors to be radiologists. Out here in Arizona, they go, what the hell's a chiropractic radiologist? I go, well, what the hell's a medical radiologist? I love I do the same thing you do.
Chiropractic, being introduced to chiropractic, it wasn't until I injured my my left knee in the way I did, and it's an IT band. It's an IT band strain or sprain, whatever that means. It wasn't until I got in touch with a chiropractor that I started to understand. Just because I'm young, right? I'm like in my 20s. Like, what do I need chiropractic for? And I'm lucky that I haven't up till this point. But chiropractors are pretty incredible, and I just, some people are like, oh, they're not medical doctors. I'm like, no, they know what they're doing, and they're a vital part of the medical team.
Yeah, well, the schooling is all the same. Mm-hmm. It's the same. I mean, you can see these are all my medical books here.
Wow.
Back there, those are all my medical.
For the listeners, Jim is surrounded. He is ensconced in bookshelves.
Yeah. Oh, you should see downstairs. I got over 1,000 books downstairs.
Well, you said downstairs where all your military stuff is, so yeah, I really do want to see downstairs. So
one of these days of the week, I'll get it all done. I'm putting a movie room down there, a videography room down there. Wow. I've already got the bar set up. I've already got the my office set up. The bar down there. And I'm not a big drinker at all, but I mean, I got this bar set up. But the where's it going? Oh, the books. I've got over 100 books on sunken ships.
Wow.
I've got over probably over 100 books on weapons. I got a few books on porcelain, and coins, foreign weapons and coins from back in the early centuries, about when the pirate ships had them.
Yeah. Wow.
In fact, one of my goals this year is to go down to Vero Beach, and I've got a buddy that's a treasure hunter down there, and we want to go diving off there. We'll get permission from one of the guys that's got the contract or whatever it is.
Oh my God.
And he'll let you dive on the sunken ships and stuff and look for coins or whatever you want to look for, but he gets 20%. So I'm sitting there going, that works for me. I do it for 50%.
Oh my God. So, I'm just noticing here that you have a tendency for unorthodox and interesting hobbies. And so while you're working as a chiropractic radiologist, when did meteorite hunting enter your purview of things that suddenly sparked interest?
Well, I always liked space. I always wanted to go into space, and the closest I ever got was, working with the astronauts on the space shuttle. But I started studying stuff. I fell in love with asteroids and stuff like that when I went to the American Museum of Natural History when I was a little bitty kid, in New York. And I'm going, well, these are cool. I like to learn more about this. I want to go out in space and look for them, And so now what I did is I started studying them. I started buying pieces of them, started to learn more about them. I've probably got about 30, 40 books on meteorites. There's not that many books out.
Mm-hmm.
So I just learned about them. Well, I've got over 100 meteorites downstairs in my office.
Mm-hmm.
And they range from big pieces down to little tiny pieces. But so what I did is I decided to go out and I met these guys that were meteorite hunters, like the Meteorite Man that had that show on TV, Jeff Nucken and Steve Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two Steve Arnolds, by the way, in meteorite hunting. But Steve Arnold that was working with Jeffrey. And Jeffrey was born in New York and raised in England, and I was born in England and raised in New York.
Yeah.
So he calls me Uncle Jim. I call him my nephew. But hunting with these guys and learning as much as I can from them, I go out hunting for meteorites. And I've got a lady friend now, Jana Becker, and Jana's she's the one I told you was an astronomer.
Mm-hmm.
And so her and I went hunting just last weekend. We went out on Saturday, I think it was. We went hunting and we got skunked. We didn't find anything. Yeah. I've been there a couple of times already, a few times, and I found 2 of them up there already. But wow. And I donate a lot of them. I donate to the Vatican. You know, the Vatican has the biggest telescope here on Mount Graham in Arizona. Wow. And so Brother Guy Consolmagno and I are friends, and Brother Bob Mackey, they both operate it. And so when I come up with meteorites that they don't have, or I find new ones or something like that, I give them a slice or give them a piece if I find a few pieces. Mm-hmm. So, wow. But, and I slice them and sell them, you know, and keep one for my collection, that kind of thing.
Really cool.
But it's starting to I'm getting almost to that point where I want to move on. I want to look for other stuff. I like the idea of, you know, diving. I love diving. It's getting harder for me to hump in the mountains now.
Yeah.
I got T-boned in a car accident, and I had my L4 disc removed. And right now my left leg is kind of weak.
Yeah.
So it's kind of making it harder on me. But I went diving a couple of years ago down right before COVID. I was diving in Honduras down there, dove on a couple of sunken ships and stuff. And it was kind of fun.
Now I'm that kid who because I was a lifeguard for like 10 years. And because that was like my job from when I was in like high school through when I was getting my undergraduate, it was just being a lifeguard. And no matter how much time I spent in the water, I was always freaked out by like underwater grates, like if like the vacuum was in the pool, like going around, that would just get me going. I'm in the pool all the time. Like I'm always in the pool training with people and just having fun. And I'm just in the water all the time. And I could never get over it. So the idea of being underwater by a sunken ship kind of freaks me out. I'm not gonna lie. So good for you. Good for you. I'm gonna let you do that.
A lot of people like that, because when I was on the boat, you know, the guys said, "Hey, let's go dive on this ship," and a bunch of people didn't want to go on it. It was only him and I that went down there.
You know,
nobody else wanted to go inside it, and it's beautiful inside.
I'll say this. Well, it is a fact of my nature that I get anxious about whatever makes me anxious. I will use techniques and tools to get that under control, and I really want to dive on World War II Japanese shipwrecks that are in the South Pacific, because Truck Lagoon is exactly what I was going to say. The U.S. Air Force, or it wasn't the U.S. Air Force, it was the Navy. Carrier-based aircraft just decimated multiple times. Just came in, and once they had air supremacy in the South Pacific in the Second World War, they just caught a lot of ships. And I talked my almost grandfather. I call him my almost grandfather. He lives here in the neighborhood, and this is where I grew up. And he was in the Navy in Korea, and he said, you know, part of his job was going through places like Truk, and you know, the water was beautiful, clear, and you could see down, and as his minesweeper would be passing over all these sunken ships, and he said you could see things like a ship would have its belly torn out, and there'd just be a bunch of trucks spilled out, or you know, whatever spilled out onto the seafloor. And I'd love to see that, but I'm freaked out of sharks, and I'm freaked out of like sunken underwater ships. But you know what? I like history more, and I think if I'm with people who know what they're doing, I'll talk. I'll do it, and I'll be fine. I'll be
Well,
fine.
I found that when you worry about sharks when you got, because I had to make jumps one time. I had to make a jump for training in Bodega Bay because
Oh
when you're a PJ, you get trained all the time.
yeah.
You're constantly doing stuff. So it was Andy Hale and I. We were in there and we're getting ready. No, it was another guy, Mark. Anyway, we're getting ready to jump in, and I'm in charge, and I'm bringing the plane over to get ready to jump, and I'm looking down. And we went around by maybe 2 or 3 times, and I'm trying to figure out everything because you have to throw a streamer out, see where the winds are.
Yeah.
And I counted over 60 sharks,
Oh.
white sharks. Bodega Bay is a breeding ground for great whites. And I'm seeing all these sharks in threes going around and twos going around and single ones going around. And I know I counted the same shark probably more than once. But the instructor goes, "What are you going to do?" I go, "Mission's always first."
Oh my god.
So we would jump out. We got in the water, and we get by this pilot was in a raft, and he's like apparently got a broken leg, and
Yeah.
we got to take care of him. And excuse me.
It's okay.
And so I'm underwater with my shark dart, waiting for a shark to come around. Nothing. I go back up. Andy goes down, or Mark goes down, and he's running around. He's looking around. Nothing. We were in that boat for over an hour because the chopper said, "Hey, we got to refuel before we come back."
Yeah.
But good Lord, man, there's sharks in this water. We didn't see one shark
Wow.
the whole time. And
Wow.
and other times I've been under, I've done some other diving for fun. And if you dive in Monterey Bay in that area there's some really nice. Point Lobos has got some beautiful areas just for diving and looking around.
Mm-hmm.
And they got these big old leopard sharks running around down there.
Oh yeah. I've
And
snorkeled
so
with leopard sharks, and they're not.
Yeah, they usually won't hurt you.
They're not even that. Leopard sharks. They're not usually that big. I don't think they usually get too big.
These guys are like maybe 4.5, 5 feet.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're maybe a little. But they were coming towards me.
Man.
And so when one came right by me, one came like from here away from me.
Yeah.
About from here away from me.
Man.
And so what I did is I grabbed him by his tail.
Yeah.
You can't hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't hold on. They're gone.
Yeah.
Now, if we can get that technology where those guys can go like 30 miles an hour underneath the water by barely moving,
Yeah.
and we got to make a sub like that.
Well, sir, I think we could talk about all kinds of things that aren't even military history related for a long time. You've mentioned a lot of things that I really want to just talk forever about. But
We still got all my pararescue.
I think we should just kind of hop back in here. So you said you're pararescue for 8 years, you said?
No, 6, I think.
Okay.
7. I think about 6.5 years, something like that.
I mean, just kind of curious. What kind of throw me some notable? Did you see combat during that time with anything, or did you go anywhere?
No, not with
shot at
pararescue.
all?
No, in fact, when I got hurt and I left the team, then the team went on over and started working over in Iraq and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, when I was there, it was all peacetime. I worked with Mount St. Helens when it blew.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with Space Shuttle. I worked with President Carter, Senator Kennedy, douchebag. And then there was 2 jump missions out in the ocean, about a little over 1,000 miles out.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few hoist missions where you go out and you bring them on the hoist. I went to school with Johnny Spillane. He was one of the PJs that was on the Perfect Storm.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, if you go to my Facebook page and go through in the pararescue section, you'll see a picture of Johnny Spillane holding a mic to one of the guys. They were filming an Air Force Now film, which is a film that the Air Force does to try to get people interested in coming into pararescue.
Yeah.
But he was there, and I haven't seen Johnny since school. But yeah, he was a great guy. Him and I used to go climbing a lot in the rocks up in Sandia Crest, up in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Over there.
So,
But yeah, that's pretty much it in pararescue.
Mm-hmm.
I went through SIR training with them I've been through 3 POW camps, military POW camps where they try to get you to break and all
Oh
that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
The bordering,
Yeah.
all that stuff. The Special Forces one was probably one of the worst ones.
Isn't the rule behind that like eventually everybody breaks? It's just like how
Oh yeah,
long can you
everybody
hold
will
out?
break. When I was in the Navy and they sent me through that SEER training there, we had to go for a survival thing. When you go out, you live off the land, and
Yeah.
they have you say you got to go to this point, and you use compass courses, and you're going over the hills, and you get to this point, and you see this building, looks like a Fort Knox, like a cavalry building or
Yeah.
something. It's all wood, logs,
Yeah.
and you go in through the gate, and as soon as you go in there, they've got you captured, and then you go for the POW school, and that was brutal.
Wow.
The Navy one was brutal. They had the Navy SEALs and UDT guys, the underwater demolition guys. They were running it, and they were friggin' brutal. I mean, they'd put you in a locker, and they put another guy on top of it, and they actually take a 45 pistol with blanks and fire it in there, not next to your head, but just fire it. They put you in lockers and beat it with bats and stuff, and with sirens going off inside there. I mean, come out, you're deaf.
Oh my
And you're
God.
stripped naked down to your underwear.
Yeah.
And it was muddy and snow on the ground outside, so you're freezing your butt off out there.
Oh my God.
But where a lot of those guys, there was 36 of us that went through, and there was only 6 of us that passed. But the one where they got everybody was the Mutt and Jeff routine, where they treat you really harshly. And then you go into this other room, and they got this guy with a Red Cross on his band, and he goes, "How'd they treat you? I mean, here, have some water, and would you like coffee or something, and he says, how's the family doing? How many kids do you have anyway? And stuff like that. And people start spilling their guts out, thinking he's a good guy. And the enemy will do the same thing. So everybody was failing on it. We had one guy that wouldn't say anything. In fact, when they had him salute the major, which is a picture of Mao Zedong, he gets up there and he whips out his pecker and pees all over it.
Oh my God.
They beat the crap out of that dude.
Oh, that's great.
When I was in there, they wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't do anything. But they tell you that, like, if they tell you to bark like a dog bark, if they tell you to do something and you don't do it, then eventually they'll say, okay, then you do it. And so they can move on to the next phase of it. So when I was in there, they had me kneeling on a broomstick and a broomstick behind my legs, behind my knees. And I was squatted down. I had my hands like this on the ground, and they kept kicking me in the head and kicked me all over the place. And they wanted me to, I can't remember what it was. I just gave my name, rank, service number thing, but which you're supposed to do. And then they had me sit in this chair, and no, when I was on the ground like that, my legs go to sleep, and you got a broom handle behind your knees. So they stomp on your toes, they kick you in the head when your elbows hit the ground, that kind of stuff. So they said, bark like a dog, and I wouldn't do it. And then eventually they said, okay. So I went woof. And so they got me up to move to the next phase. They said, sit here in this chair. That's my chair. Get out of that chair. They threw me up against a bed, and I didn't know there was another guy in the room. It was a dark room with just one little light coming down. And he kicked me in the head, and I went flying across the room, hit a wall, stuck my tooth through my lip. So now I'm bleeding. Oh, you want first aid? You want to take care of that? Sign the paper kind of thing.
Oh, boy.
So they were brutal. But
boy.
but I passed. I was one of the 6 guys that passed. And a bunch of the guys just weren't ready for it. These guys were not.
Yeah.
They were overweight. They were. I mean, I was in great shape.
Yeah.
So, but we escaped. They captured us one time. There was only 3 of us left because 3 guys already got messed up out in the field. So the SEAL teams come over and they go, stay here in front of these headlights. So we're in there, and they sent some guy out to go look for the other guys. There should be 3 more. And they were looking for them. They weren't there. So one guy goes, I don't know. And all of a sudden the guy goes, hey, wait a minute. This is Yellow Element. He goes, yeah. Oh, they've only got 3 guys. So by the time he turns around, we're gone. So, and then they had some beach jumping units coming after me. And I'm running, when you're awake for like 5 days, I mean, you can't see. When you get drunk and you walk, everything kind of goes like this.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm running, and this beach jumping unit guy is coming after me, and he's firing his 45 with blanks at me. And I run and jump over this gully that was probably 30 feet wide,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I went right on down.
Oh my
I
God.
landed underneath the tree, and I'm laying there, and I got my eye open. I'm going, why do I have my eyes open? I should have my eyes closed. So finally, he's just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting like that, you know. And he goes, ah, you blinked. Okay, you're alive. Come on. So they had us in a place. They had us laying on the ground, and we were the last team that was getting ready to come into this place I was telling you about, this like
Yeah.
cavalry post. So we get up and we're walking out. We fell asleep on the ground. The three of us fell asleep on the ground.
Mm.
They had us down there face down, you know, like this, and all of a sudden we woke up. No, some guys came through and said, "Oh, here they are. We found them." And they woke us up. And they go, "Dude, what happened to you guys?" I guess we fell asleep because they left us there and walked away. And so they said, "Well, go this direction here," and we had to walk into that prison camp. So, but it was excellent training, really good training. I mean, they treated you the way the enemy would treat you.
I'm just thinking,
I mean, they beat the crap out of you.
what I'm thinking about here is like, you know, the military, you know, your military experience, doing the things you've done, it really sounds like, you know, what we talked about earlier was that speeding train, you know, and you're on that speeding train. And kind of what I want to talk about now is, you know, as the podcast is kind of reaching its end, I kind of want to ask, and, you know, and we briefly discussed this earlier, but, you know, something that I always ask people on the podcast is, you know, yes, like obviously, you know, we're talking now, you survived your time in the military, and, you know, and that's nothing to shake a stick at in your case because of the things you did and continued to do even after your time in the military. But the statistic is that, you know, 22 veterans a day choose to end their lives, and so that kind of begs the reality that, you know, being a veteran is something that you also need to survive, unfortunately. And you've done that. You're here today, by virtue of the fact that you're here talking with me today. You've successfully survived, having gone through what you've gone through, having lived the high adventure, like, you know, going through this survival training. Like yeah, it's brutal, but this is an adventure. This is pretty incredible stuff. You get off that speeding train, and, you know, in your experience, with your experiences you've seen, what advice would you have for somebody who had just gotten off that speeding train and is now, you know, dealing with tough times? What advice would you have for that person?
Right off the bat, I would say you want to find people that have been through the similar type of situations, some of the people you fought with, and talk with them and just kind of iron it out. Because, you know, like when you're in SOG, you can't really just talk to any soldier about it, because they look at it like, oh, that's full of baloney. That would never happen, you know. And you know, and nobody believes you. So you got to be with people that understand what you've been through and that sort of thing. The other thing is that I think the government needs to evaluate people a little bit better than they do, because there's people that can handle it, like myself, and there's other people that they can't handle it at all. I mean, they can't even look at a war movie, you know. And the only movie that ever bothered me was Tears of the Sun with Bruce Willis. That movie is very, very similar to SOG missions.
Wow.
Very similar to it.
Wow.
And so that one brought tears to my eyes when I watched it. Tears of the Sun.
Gotcha.
Bruce Willis. They're a SEAL team, but they're doing the same type of thing.
Yeah.
You know. So, but I tell people, you know, get with people that you can talk to about it and work with them and stay busy, do things together. I mean, don't tie yourself up with another guy that's in the same boat you are.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just going to make it heavier on you.
Be careful.
But I stay busy. As far as, like, with me, it's adrenaline thing, and I still skydive. I still go scuba diving. I'm waiting for my back to get a little bit better before I jump again. But I still get out there. I still get out there and do stuff. And I go to SOAR every year. But it's getting kind of getting kind of tired of listening to the same old stories. But yeah, I remember when I used to hang with John Caviani, and the Medal of Honor recipient.
Mm-hmm.
And when Johnny and I talking, he was always telling us about how we were going to be attacked by monkeys out in the field, and I remember when he said that there was this redhead monkey who was sitting there, and he goes, Johnny turns around, he goes, "I think he's in love with you, Jim," like that. And then I got my gun on. I told, "Come on, man, go away. I don't want to shoot you, because you shoot your gun, everybody's gonna know who you are." So especially because of the distinct sound between it, a Car 50 AK. So, but anyway, that's the thing. And one of the big things with me is I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. I'm a real strong Christian.
Yeah.
And I've got lots of reason to believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And so that helps me out a lot, a tremendous amount. I mean, I've seen life after death. I've had prayers answered, blatantly answered within minutes, just boom, right there.
Wow.
And there's no way it could have happened without, that kind of intervention. So, but, so that's one of the biggest things that keeps me together too, is the Lord. And the other is just being around my buddies. But I'm not a very military oriented kind of a guy. I'm more of an adrenaline oriented kind of a guy. And I think when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be like James Bond. I wanted to be a spy. And, but I could never get around to it, What's the odds? And then I thought maybe I'd get into movies and be an actor. I tried getting in the Stuntman Association. That just never came around because that's such a tight group, So I just lived that life. So it's a little different with me than it is with a lot of other people.
Sure.
But I just tell people, just get with people around you. Get with the Veterans Administration. They got these guys that are trained in this kind of thing, but they've never experienced it.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're the best people to be helping you.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I think the best people is getting with your old friends, go to reunions and talk to guys.
Yeah.
Because if you go to a reunion, that means those people are out there. They're doing okay. There's a lot of PTSD in pararescue too, with guys, because they're more of a giving, nurturing kind of a person, saving kind of a person. So when they lose their friends, other PJs and stuff, when they see a chopper get blown out of the sky and their buddies are in it, that really hurts them too. And we've got a few guys, but we usually get together with them. There's a raft trip every year for veterans on the Colorado River, and I've been on it one time. And they have it for like all the SEALs, the Army guys, the SOG guys, PJs. Yeah. They have it, and that's really good because you get that camaraderie. And if they see somebody who's hurting, they'll take them under their wing and say, "Hey, I want you to come up and stay with me for a while." That kind of thing. Yeah. So it works out really good. They're these little tight knit groups that do all these really tough things, and they have these bad memories. They have groups that they're all, most all of them belong to groups. Next weekend, I'm going to a Special Forces group. We're going to get together in Tucson, then we're going to go down to Tombstone, which is just 8 miles north of me. Mm-hmm. And then, I'll see if some of the guys want to crash in my house here overnight. Mm-hmm. But most of those guys, they were just regular A-team guys. There's a few guys in there that were with SOG. Wow. And right now, a lot of the stuff I've done in my past is almost like watching a movie, but I know it's real. It's just like watching a movie, and I just try to keep my mind going and do some other things. I get bored real easy. That's why I went from the Navy to the Army to the Air Force. And when I was 50, I was a professional female impersonator.
Okay, cool.
And no, I'm not gay. I'm not gay, but. Yeah, but I did Dolly Parton and I did Janis Joplin.
What?
And I raised over $600,000 for charity.
Wow. What made you think? How did that come to be?
I'm 75 and I don't look 75.
Yeah.
I've got hyperestrogenism where you've got estrogen in you, but you get your estrogen from your testosterone. Uh-huh. So your body converts a little bit of testosterone for the estrogen. Uh-huh. And that's the way it is. That's why you see some men that are more roly-poly, rosy cheeks,
Sure.
and some guys that look like Paul Bunyan,
Mm-hmm.
square jaws, because it converts more or
Mm-hmm.
less. And with my body, it doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
just keeps converting and converting. But here's one picture. Let me see if I can get this picture.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time.
Here's one picture. It's kind of I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. But that was me as Dolly Parton.
Whoa.
So, and the breasts and everything.
Jeez.
Yeah, I looked really good. And I was in my 50s. I looked really good.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
I had guys hitting on me thinking I was a real woman.
Jeez. Well,
But it's
I'm not.
it's crazy.
I mean, first of all, I'm not judging this. I think this is so interesting. I mean, you hunt meteorites. You were at SOG, PJ, but you're like, I want to go treasure hunting. I dive on ships and just swim with sharks. I was like, sure, of course you do female, or you've done female. You just seem like somebody who's just like, well, and also, like, let me just say this. When you've gone and you've faced, like, when you've faced real things and you've faced yourself, you can do anything. So it's
Yeah, and
like,
that's about where I'm at. That's pretty much where I'm
so
at.
it's like, hey, cool, and you're raising money for charity, tight. I mean,
Yeah, I stopped doing it.
you have more
Yeah, I did
courage
my
than I
last show
do.
in 2000.
Oh
Yeah, I
wow.
did my last show in 2000, 94 to 2000.
I one time here in Portland, our gay pride scene is massive, and my sister took me to a drag show one time, and they're like, oh yeah, you got to sit up front. And I was like, why? And they said, just do it. Here, take these $1 bills.
Exactly.
They just stuck me up front. I was getting a lot of attention. I was all embarrassed. I'm like, oh no, I'm getting all red in the face. Oh, you're taking the money. They could tell.
I
They're having
made
fun.
I made something like $3,600 in
Jeez.
I think 13 minutes one time.
Whoa.
Yeah, I did Peace Train, Dolly Parton's Peace Train, and I had attorneys because being a doc, I work with a lot of attorneys. I had attorneys coming up, doctors coming up, and they were giving me checks, $500, $600, $700.
You're incredible. You're an incredible person.
In fact, right now I'm trying to get over to Ukraine to try and help the people there. And one of my buddies, Doc Paget, if you know Doc Paget,
No.
John Paget, he's a major. He was enlisted when I knew him, but he's a major now. He's over there right now. Him and his wife are over there. They bring a bunch of medical supplies.
Mm-hmm.
He started a physician's assistant school in Las Vegas.
Oh wow.
So they retired out of that. They sold the whole thing, and now he just runs around the world helping other groups.
Oh wow.
So those kind of things work out really good. But if you can get, Doc Paget was on the Tailwind thing.
Wow.
Yeah, he was one of the rescue guys that went in the truck.
So he was SOG with Operation Tailwind.
Yeah, he was one of our medics.
Wow. He's in Ukraine right now. Wow.
Yeah, he'll be back this next weekend. But I try to get over there, and it's either I'm too old or whatever.
Is that the next adventure for you?
Well, yeah, I'd like to get over there and help people. I'd like to get people out of harm's way and get them into safety, the civilians and stuff. I'd like to do that. The bullets flying around and explosion stuff don't faze me a bit. I look at it, they've got a 10% chance of getting injured, and you got a 1% chance of dying of it, maybe less than that.
Yeah.
So your odds are pretty good, 99 to 1 in 100. That's a good odds.
It's funny. It's just funny hearing a SOG veteran talking about the odds, because the odds were so against you being here today, talking about the real world reality of having lived that. You put it like, I think it's kind of poetic that you put it like you're looking back on your past experiences as though it's part of a movie. As I think as we move further away from events, the temporal divide, between the past and the present, begins to, just really change the way we look at them. So that right there is why I'm as dedicated as I can to try to interview folks such as yourself and hear the stories and get behind the just get behind the war story to the person who lived it and survived it, so that we can all hopefully understand a little bit more about it. And so for that, I just want to really, really kind of close this podcast off with a serious gratitude and thanks for your time. And I mean it.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I really enjoy doing these podcasts because, in a sense, they're a little bit of immortality.
Yeah.
Because when I'm gone, they're still here.
Well, that's unfortunately, it's fortunately or unfortunately, the way it is that we all are in a unique position right now where Vietnam vets are still able to tell their stories, and they are out there, and the country is thankfully moving into a place where we're willing to listen. And as I said earlier, Vietnam has been a point of contention in this country since the moment it began. And I just encourage people to listen to the stories. You don't get hurt from listening, you learn. And listening to the shining bright lights that define our history, such as Cobra 84 and your efforts there. So this has been another episode of the Modern Military History Podcast with Jim Shorten. Sir, thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
This has been a production of Modern Military History. The mission of Modern Military History is to make military history accessible in the modern age. Want to learn more about modern military history? Check out the website www.modernmilitaryhistory.com.